Hexagram 9. Hexagram 9. Welcome to I Ching, Oracle of the Cosmic Way. Share my screen. Here we go. And I cast this hexagram 2nd of May 2025, and I got line 2. And here it is. Hexagram 9. The taming power of the small, success through the small. The judgment, dense clouds, no rain from our western region. In this hexagram, the sage focuses on how people, animals, plants, and other aspects of nature are tamed and trained through small means. More specifically, it refers to how people are brought under the control of the collective ego through getting them to unquestioningly follow rules that bind them to its structure. Small refers to the rewards used in this behavior. Small refers to the rewards used in this training. Good behavior, which earns the rewards given, is the term used to define conformity to the rules. Dense clouds is an image of the result of the conditioning process by which cosmic virtues are appropriated by the collective ego, then turned into abstract virtues which cloud or obscure the light that would otherwise come from the person's true nature and virtue. In the course of this conditioning, his senses of outer and inner seeing are brought under a spell that makes him focus only on the superficial appearance of things. It also causes him to look at things as objects, prohibiting him from recognizing that everything that exists has consciousness and dignity. By relying only on what he sees, the person is divorced from his feelings about what he observes. This creates in him a distorted perception, which then projects itself back upon the thing he observes, distorting, in turn, their way of expressing themselves. Thus, the reality he observes is very much created by his projections. His sense of reality is thus beclouded. No rain means that such a person is prevented from receiving the cosmic nourishment that would come from relating to the intrinsic nature of things. The Western region is a metaphor for a person's cosmic virtues from which nourishment comes. No rain indicates that the approval and rewards of the collective ego contain no true nourishment. In addition, the true nourishment cannot come because the collective ego has appropriated these virtues by making the person believe he does not have them and therefore needs to develop them. Thus, for example, his natural loyalty to his inner truth is replaced by loyalty to the collective ego's institutions and values. His being loyal to his inner truth is denounced as subjective, irrational, and subversive. Instead, the collective ego's moral rules to tell him how and to whom his virtues are to be applied, regardless of the circumstances. In the case of kindness, he is to be kind in circumstances which it describes as correct, even though this may mean that he puts his kindness in the service of the egos in others. I'll say that again. In the case of kindness, he is to be kind in circumstances which it describes as correct, even though this may mean that he puts his kindness in the service of the egos in others. The effect of this conditioning is to suppress the person's true self through making him doubt his inner truth and disregard the prompting of his cosmic virtues. It divorces him from his feelings by asserting that feelings are a part of his weak nature and therefore cannot be trusted. The person is thereby reduced to relying only on thinking, which has also been brought under the collective ego's control. The effect on the social structure as a whole is to deprive it of the feelings that would otherwise provide a harmonious interaction between all its people and make possible a natural society that is in harmony with the rest of nature and the cosmic whole. The conditioning can also be seen as introducing microchips of memory not only into the person's psyche. I'm just going to highlight this. The conditioning can also be seen as introducing microchips of memory not only into the psyche of a person, but into certain muscles and organs as well. Similar to Pavlovian training, its goal is to produce reflexive behavior such as unquestioned obedience to authority. Such training, which is against a person's nature, invariably creates unplanned for consequences. Spells connected with this hexagram include phrases such as, people do not have cosmic virtues, all virtue is cultivated, human animal nature needs to be tamed. Success through the small, the cosmic meaning of this hexagram, shows a person how his suppressed true self can be reclaimed from the subconscious step by step through the gradual penetration of the light of inner truth. Penetration is that 57, I did this before. The small in this case refers both to the small steps and the small seeds of ideas that, when deprogrammed, bring down the whole trees that have grown into ego complexes from the mistaken ideas. It also is a metaphor for the individual path of destiny that is begun by taking these first small steps. Entry onto this path often begins with the gift of love to two people. It comes as a cosmic intervention in their lives to reveal to them their lost true selves, which have become strangers within. Love, which is given only to their true selves, provides them with the opportunity to recognize and validate each other's true self as the rightful leader of their personalities. The gift also gives them an opportunity to recognize the presence of the invisible helpers in their lives. The lines. Line 1. Return to the path. How could there be blame in this? Good fortune. Return to the path is counsel given to a person who, through the influence of the ego, is tempted to abandon the path of freeing his true self. The ego presents the path as too hard or as to not to be trusted because it requires that he depend on what he cannot see, or it does not appear to lead to his goal, or the ego will say that the way of the sage is a fiction of his imagination. Seed phrases behind such thoughts are, at some point, you're going to be disappointed. Such a path goes against the wisdom of the ages. And how can such small steps lead to big results? It is impossible to rid yourself of your ego. There are no such things as spells or a demonic sphere of consciousness. The line may also indicate that a person is judging the gift of love he has received by what he ought to think about it, rather than by validating what his feelings are telling him or verifying their validity by consulting the sage. Such a person regards the shoulds of the collective ego as more important than his inner truth. How could there be blame in this refers to the effort he needs to make to rid himself of seed phrases that devalue his feelings as only subjective. This line defines the difference between true blame and what the collective ego calls blame. True blame is incurred when a person betrays his inner truth by following the shoulds of the collective ego. From the viewpoint of the collective ego, blame is incurred by disregard of its rules and values. A further difference is that true blame is never the cause of guilt and can always be extinguished either by a fate or by a sincere correction of attitude. The cosmos rejects altogether the idea of guilt, while the collective ego sees it as the consequence of blame. As the convicted felon is made to realize, the collective ego does not allow that guilt to be eradicated, it must be paid for endlessly. In order to return to the path of freeing his true self, a person also needs to rid himself of any feelings of guilt that he may have betrayed the values or rules of the collective ego. The reverse is true. It is the collective ego that betrays his true nature. Return to the path also counsels a person against confronting the ego in another directly. I'll say this again. Return to the path also counsels a person against confronting the ego in another directly in an effort to counter it. Rather than being bothered by the ego's display and blaming him, the person says the inner no and asks for the help of the cosmos. If necessary, he agrees with him outwardly to allow him to save face as long as he is in that ego mode. In this way, his inner no supports the person's true self while not engaging their ego. It's really important there. That's interesting. I'm going to highlight that. Line 2. He allows himself to be drawn into returning good fortune. This line draws our attention to the active help a person gets from the cosmos to draw him back to his true nature. The help referred to comes in the form of a cosmic gift. The gift can be a love relationship or a job opportunity because the receiver is modest and sincere. Receiving a love relationship, sudden wealth, or some other benefit is to make the person aware that his good fortune does not come, as he may think, from his having been virtuous, but to strengthen his imprisoned true self. Recognizing this fact is to allow himself to be drawn into returning to the truth of the matter and to humility. The line may also apply to the person who thinks that his gift of love is the result of having successfully sublimated his lower nature, whereas the gift has been given to him to free the repressed part of his nature to make him whole. Seed phrases behind the idea of sublimating one's lower nature, and which puts spells and poison arrows on the body, are sexuality is part of one's lower instincts, and the instincts must be sublimated in favor of one's higher nature. The cosmic gift can also come as an unpleasant happening to make a person aware that he has put a projection, spell, or poison arrow on another. The unpleasant happening has the purpose of sparking him to reflect and correct himself. Allowing himself to be drawn into returning also counsels a person to leave behind friends or associates who are following the path of the collective ego. Just going to highlight this one. Leaving them behind does not mean that he mentally executes or condemns them, but says the inner no to their path and goes on his way. The line also is counsel against the I Ching for ego purposes, that is, in any way that would diminish its dignity. At the same time, it is counsel against putting it on a pedestal as a sacred book or putting the sage up as higher, which would distance the person from it. Hmm. Line 3. The spokes burst out of the wagon wheels. Man and wife roll their eyes. The wagon referred to here is a metaphor for the natural progress of a person's life when he is in harmony with his nature. The spokes stand for his cosmic virtues that are in connection with his feelings, inner truth, the wheels. When the individual undergoes the collective ego's conditioning mentioned in the main text of this hexagram, his virtues become separated from his feelings and inner truth. This is the meaning of the spokes burst out of the wagon wheels. By making his virtues conform to the standards prescribed by the collective ego, the person has put spells on his feelings and inner senses. Consequently, he has been acting from thinking and according to shoulds, and in the process has created a fate. This line can refer to the effect such a fate has on the sense of inner seeing when it is under a spell. It makes the person see a fate as undeserved because he has been a virtuous person in the eyes of the collective ego. Receiving this line is to make him aware that he himself is the creator of his fate through betraying his inner truth. He also needs to realize that the fate is a cosmic response to his having violated cosmic laws. Fate is another means employed by the cosmos to draw him into returning to his inner truth and common sense. Fate, as shock, makes the eyes roll in terror. This is good because terror temporarily freezes the ego, thus allowing the person to get in touch with his true feelings. Going to come back to that one. When fate comes in the form of an illness, it frees his senses from the spell put upon them by the collective ego. This line can also refer to a person who has put a spell on a situation that prevents progress. For example, through a mistaken idea of loyalty, a person has promised to be faithful to his partner for the rest of his life. The promise, in addition to giving permission to the ego in his partner to dominate the relationship, puts a spell on himself that forces him to be loyal no matter what. It also inserts into the other's psyche the idea that regardless of what he does, he has a right to the other's loyalty. The person needs to ask for help to be freed from this spell. Ridding himself of it will also extinguish the fate he has created and open new possibilities for the relationship as a whole. See page 546, What are spells? This line can also draw a person's attention to a helper that makes him feel the gnawing, Gnawing, gnawing of his consciousness to remind him that he has betrayed his true nature. Feeling this gnawing is not meant to make him feel guilty, but to make him aware that he has created blame and to give him an opportunity to rid himself of it. This is done by recognizing that thoughts of self-blame, of which blame life, are rationales coming from the ego. Through saying the inner no to these rationales, he frees helpers of his nature, his cosmic virtues, that are meant to help him through his life, and he enables his true self to grow. The line can also make a person aware that he is experiencing a fate because he has put a spell on a part of his nature by calling it lower, as by saying or thinking, sexuality is part of one's lower instincts. and their instincts must be sublimated in favor of one's higher nature. His fate can be extinguished if he will rid himself of this spell. This line can also point to a spell put on the natural order of society through disbelief that such an order exists and that it would actually function. This spell blocks the helper of creativity and the helper of a natural society. Interesting. I haven't heard of the helper of natural society before. Great. For a more detailed discussion of this theme and the spells connected with it, see Hexagram 45, Gathering Together. Line 4. If you are sincere, blood vanishes and fear gives way. No blame. Blood vanishes and fear gives way is an explanation that the cosmos has intervened to correct the difficult situation because the person involved has kept himself open to cosmic help and refrained from any attempt to correct matters according to his own ideas. The line is also a statement that a person needs to be sincere in correcting himself after having broken a cosmic law. Blood, in this case, refers to his feelings of guilt and fear of punishment for having done so. He is incorrectly thinking of guilt and punishment in the way the collective ego does, and therefore fears that the matter cannot be corrected. This line tells him that in the given circumstance, to make blood vanish and fear give way, he needs to do two things. One, correct his error by recognizing he has done something wrong and saying the inner no to his wrongdoing. Two, rid himself of the idea of guilt by treating it as a spell. Line 5. If you are sincere and loyally attached, you are rich in your neighbor. This line makes a person aware of the source of true blessings and success. The cosmic consciousness, I'll say that bit again. This line makes a person aware of the source of true blessings and success, the cosmic consciousness. Every person is directly connected with it through his neighbor, which is a metaphor for the helpers of inner truth. A person is in harmony and connected with the cosmic consciousness when he is sincere and loyally attached to his inner truth. The sage is the helper that helps him access his inner truth. No human intermediary can serve this function or interpret what his inner truth is telling. It's great. I'm going to highlight that. Line 6. The rain comes, there is rest. This is due to continuous learning through one's feelings. The moon is only nearly full. If the superior man persists, misfortune comes. Perseverance brings the woman into danger. The rain comes, bringing rest, is an indication that a person has come to an understanding of what the sage means in the specific situation. The lesson he has learned, however, must not be taken as true for all situations. It is to be taken only as a handhold in his learning process. As a handhold, it is to be held onto until it is eventually succeeded by yet another handhold or broader understanding. This learning process allows no understanding of the moment to become true for all time. It is, however, dependable as a temporary structure that enables the person to make progress in his life. The moon is only nearly full is a reference to the moon's incomplete reflection of the sun. As a metaphor, it represents the person who, in learning from the sage by handholds, begins to think that he has learned the ultimate truth and therefore has become a superior man. This assumption, however, reveals that he has allowed the ego to appropriate what he has learned from the sage. Perseverance brings the woman into danger refers to this fact. since the woman stands for his feelings, which have now been shut out. Receiving this line can indicate that a person believes in the mistaken idea that enlightenment is the goal of developing the true self. This concept is only an invitation to egotistical pride, which is the enemy of all learning. The goal of enlightenment is taken from the collective ego's view of education. It implies a final state of knowledge or attainment by acquiring the studying things as objects in such a way that the student is divorced from his feelings about them. Studying things in this way projects upon the things being studied say this again. Studying things in this way projects upon the things being studied the distorted and degraded view produced by seeing them as objects. Cosmic learning, by contrast, is learning through listening to our feelings and through perceiving the dignity that is inherent in all things. This kind of learning enlarges our perception and enables us to discover things in their true identity, and thereby to contribute to the ongoing evolution of the cosmic consciousness. The rain comes, there is rest, also refers to the chi energy, harmony, and joy a person receives upon discovering life through his feelings and experiencing its underlying harmony. This experience is the source of an inner security that takes away all fear of the unknown through realizing that the cosmos is knowable through one's feelings. I'll say that again. This experience is the source of an inner security that takes away all fear of the unknown through realizing that the cosmos is knowable through one's feelings. Seed phrases in this context are, there is only so much you can know. If you're in the know, you have nothing to fear. Knowledge is what distinguishes humans from animals. Knowledge gives you control. Ignorance is bliss. An image is the unknown as an endless abyss into which one falls. I'm going to say that again. An image is the unknown. An image is the unknown as an endless abyss into which one falls. All right. Number 9. So, notes I wrote for this was everything that exists has consciousness and dignity. Everything that exists. Everything that exists is consciousness condensed, right? Seeing versus feeling, right? The mind, and in crossover with the 5 personality patterns, the leaving pattern loves to see, doesn't like to feel. Okay, and this is a very leaving pattern I Ching. I'm actually curious to check to see what I mapped this to in my mapping between gene keys and the I Ching. That's another thing to do. I'm not going to do that now. So, all the other notes I also made. These are my contemplations, by the way, if you hadn't already noticed. Prevented from receiving cosmic nourishment, thinking under the control of collective ego, conditioning, microchips of memory. Okay, great. I'm just going to double back to where I've highlighted here. That's all I need to have a look at for my book. All right, cool. No human intermediary can serve this function or interpret what his inner truth is telling him. This is so important, okay? So what I do in my work is I help people connect to their feelings, right? And then their inner truth needs to emerge from them, from themselves, right? And my last 12-month client, I helped him connect to the sage and the I Ching to help him find his own inner truth. And for me, that is my journey to eventually make myself redundant from this service, if that makes sense. I was like, cool, here's the way. Here it is, great. You don't need me anymore. Fantastic. Go and follow your inner truth. Go and live your life as I smack you on the bum and show you out the door, right? That's my goal, is to help you connect to your feelings so you can connect to your common sense, so you can connect to your inner truth. Because feelings get armored, which it speaks to in this book, right? In this wisdom. This spell blocks the helper of creativity and the helper of a natural society. Okay, especially right now, topically, elections, policies in Australia, elections, policies, all that kind of stuff. The helper of a natural society. So these helpers want to help. So when someone is obsessed with, you have to, everything's politics, you got to vote, and then people get obsessed about, oh, who'd you vote for? Not going to vote for this person, not going to vote for that person. You know, it's illegal to not vote in Australia. So you're legally bound to vote. So in that, you deny the help of the helpers that want a natural society. And a natural society, as far as I can see, is when everyone's living their own truth. It naturally, organically comes into a flow. And you might say, John, that's wishful thinking. It's like, well, sure. Because terror temporarily freezes the ego, thus allowing the person to get in touch with his true feelings. All right, so the context of the 5 personality patterns, the leaving pattern, is the one most paralyzed by terror. And what I've found is, yeah, terror can be really useful in freezing the ego, but it can also freeze the body as well, and the body's bandwidth to feel. And in that moment of terror, you can go either into survival or you can be shocked into presence. It can really go either way, 2 ways. And what I also found in this, not just the terror piece, but also hitting yourself on things. The leaving pattern person hits themselves on things, particularly their feet. Like, I stubbed my toe. Like, I did this, I did that, because you weren't present, right? You weren't present. You were over there, right? You were over there thinking about getting to the kitchen instead of being present with the actual motion of getting to the kitchen, right? You're already in the kitchen thinking about what to do next, or 10 steps ahead, right? So a shock to the body can bring you back into presence, which allows you to feel your feelings, right? Then you blame the chair or whatever else that you've stubbed your toe on, or whoever you think's put the toy on the floor or pushed the chair in the way, instead of just taking ownership. Laws, yes, cosmic law versus man-made law. That's going to be showing up over the next now. All right, here we go. No to their own path and goes on his way, leaving community, okay, leaving behind friends or associates who are following the path of the collective ego. And this one, someone who's usually working with me for 12 months will come across this just organically. It'll come up, whether it's leaving family or communities that they've joined, because they fit the puzzle piece. They're part of the puzzle piece of the collective ego in that community. It can be church too, any community. So in that, and for me, like I've been unfriending all kinds of people on Facebook that are like, oh, you're still there. I love you. I say no to you, and I go my own way. So it's not so much about men going their own way, just going your own way. Just go your own way. Go do your own thing. Keep your nose out of other people's businesses, unless you're invited to be in there, and you need to listen to your feelings to check. Because if you lack a connection to your core self, you'll continuously overgive to people to try and find some relevance, or try and find something to fill the gap of that unworthiness of, who am I if I'm not fixing something, right? Who am I if I'm not a helper? Who am I if I'm not saving people, right? So being able to say no to that identity and allow yourself to draw into returning into you, returning to inner truth, returning to yourself. It's very empowering. It's very empowering. Remember, you don't owe anyone anything. In this way, his inner no supports the person's true self while not engaging the ego. He agrees with him outwardly to allow him to save face as long as he is in that ego mode, right? And you can detect when someone's in an ego mode. Like for me, if I'm talking to my dad or I'm talking to anyone that's close to me in my life, I can tell when they're about to be defensive, but I ask for consent. I say, hey, I've got something that could challenge that. Do you want to hear it? It's very simple. But in that, if I know that the person is just talking out of their ego, that's funny. I just say no to that energy, whatever that is, and I won't engage in their ego. I'll say something else if I need to. But being able to say the no on somebody else's behalf, I see has been incredibly powerful and transformative for my clients, as well as family, as well as friends, as well as others in the public arena on social media. So there's no need to confront the ego directly in another. And I know that sometimes you might feel compelled to do that. You really need to listen to your feelings, your true feelings, not your ego feelings, to make that choice. If you're doing it out of, somebody has to say something, that's ego, right? Is it, do I need to say something? Do I need to say something? Shoulds of the collective ego. Blame is incurred by disregard of its rules and its values. As soon as you start going against the collective ego, more things pop up. And you'll become acutely aware of blame and shame and risk of humiliation and who's going to challenge you in your life. And you hear it, you start to hear the voice. It's a song. The collective ego has a song of its own, and it's discordant. You just keep on saying no to it. So, well, how long do I need to say no for, John? Well, as long as you need to. How long's a piece of string? Seed phrases behind such thoughts are, at some point you're going to be disappointed. Okay, so when you continuously outsource and looking for validation outside of yourself, like getting advice from other people, what I think that you're actually saying under that is, I want to avoid disappointment. I want to avoid disappointment by outsourcing my inner truth to somebody else, right? So in that, you're inevitably going to be disappointed unless you say the inner no to it. So I'm not going to be disappointed. Where's this even coming from? Invisible helpers. Okay, this is super important in relation to my work. The conditioning can also be seen as introducing microchips of memory not only into the psyche of a person, but into certain muscles and organs as well. Similar to Pavlovian training, its goal is to produce reflexive behavior such as unquestioned obedience to authority. Great. This dovetails meaning they slide together really well, like a puzzle piece into my work. The holding patterns, holding on, holding together, holding in, holding up, and holding back, those 5 main patterns are built into the body. These are microchips of memory built into musculature and organs. I specialize in musculature, the musculoskeletal. And what happens is when you go to do a thing, your body tells you to rely on this ego armor to respond. For example, your feelings might be telling you to get really angry about something, but instead you hold it in. Right? You feel that you want to share something openly in a space or a group of people, and then you hold back because you're as soon as you go to speak, you can feel something in your throat. That thing in your throat wants to be said. You didn't say it. You swallow it. Becomes some kind of psychosomatic illness later. Say the thing, even if it's we just need one more person. We're just gonna take one more person. So, I missed my chance again. Then they pick the other person. Oh, I missed my chance again. And how many more I've missed my chance again do you want to sit through until you learn the lesson? But these microchips of memory are stored in the body, and there's specific bodily exercises that you can do to help chip those microchips out so you can restore this, transform this Pavlovian. Oh, and the Pavlovian training, I don't know if you're familiar with the Pavlovian experiment, it's about learned helplessness. Okay, where the experiment is, there was a guy, Pavlovian, dog, bell, give dog food, ring bell. Keep on doing this. The dog learns that ringing the bell, he gets a piece of food, and then that's the cycle. What happens is, ring bell, don't give dog food, he still salivates. So he's expecting food, even though the bell is rung, but there's no food that's coming. So the same thing happens in your body, right? Something happens, your body expects something, but it's not happening. Right? You actually haven't got a piece of food in front of you. Same thing happens in your relationships. You've had this relationship past that's been formed from childhood. Then something happens. You start to metaphorically salivate, whatever that is, or arm yourself, or go into a holding pattern, but it's not real. Right? It's been learned in the body. Microchip, memory chip. I'd say it's more like, if you're computer savvy, I'd say it would be more like a BIOS than a microchip, because a BIOS boots up before the software runs. Right? I had a podcast called Firmware Emotive, because it's firmware. Like, the BIOS is part of that beginning. It boots up. It's the first thing you get when you start your day. Right? It's built in. So in order to change that, you need to, or transform that, you need to go into the body. Being loyal to his inner truth is denounced as subjective, irrational, and subversive. Instead, the collective ego's moral rules tell him how, and to whom his virtues are to be applied, regardless of the circumstances. So kindness, right? And I hear this said in the world, people want a kind man. I want kind, just be kind to me. It's like, no, if my kindness is in service to your ego, we both incur a fate. Not as a punishment, but I haven't learned the lessons. Like, sometimes there's not a time to be kind. You need to be a quote unquote asshole. And there's no blame to that if you're doing it in your inner truth. Right? What else have we got here? Superficial appearance of things. Consciousness, read that one out. Great. So, that said, also, I mentioned it in the previous one too, is that I'd encourage you to create a relationship with this version of the I Ching, including the lines. So if you're going to cast a hexagram, make sure you learn how to cast them. And because in that casting process, you get given lines that are relative to you. Because if you're listening to an entire hexagram, you might be like, oh, this is way too many lines. And less is more here. Okay, less is more. Less is more. Meaning that just by assuming, this is the classic egoic thing, by assuming that you're going to get, by getting more knowledge, you're going to get more benefit. Like, how's that been working out for you? Less is more. Each hexagram has 9 lines. You might get 1 line, you might get 2 lines. The maximum I've ever gotten so far in casting a hexagram is 3 lines. And that was a lot. So thank you so much for listening. And I hope you are enjoying this series. Let me know if you are. Throw in the comments. If there's any tips that you have that you're not enjoying or you'd like to hear more about, then let me know. Right, mad love. Bye.